The Zax backlog is over 3 months now, and no one is happy about it. Roll it. As I was saying, the Zax backlog is over 90 days. How do I know this? Well, because my order came in Monday after 82 days. And as recently as last week, people were telling me it was 79 days on their last order. That means it has only gotten worse, and my waiting time doesn't reflect how long your order will take if you put in an order today. So what's wrong with the Zax and what do we do about it? Plenty of people have ideas. For example, check out my friend Mr. Bogus ducking it out with other members of the community on the ARC forums. Who's right? My opinion? Nobody and everybody. If I wasn't so temperamental and rage quit in Module 10 and threw a temper tantrum destroying my entire video library pre-Module 16, you would see that this is not a new subject for me. In fact, we had a long form discussion on it between me, Putz, and a few others that I don't remember right now. And it was pretty enlightening. And while I consider both sources to be intelligent not only on the game but in general, neither of them were right or wrong. So how do I fix it? First, we need to get educated on how the Neverwinter economy is designed. To do that, hop on over and watch the Jack Emmert, which was the CEO of Cryptic Studios, and watch the video from 2013 where he outlines the Neverwinter user-generated content model. While the user-generated content portion isn't particularly useful since it has been removed from the game, there are some good references to the Neverwinter economy design that are worth understanding. Here are some key points. Number 1. A free-to-play model relies on a population that's about 10%, and 10% of that population funds the game for about 90% of the players. Now, you would assume that Cryptic can just give a middle finger to 90% of the freeloaders and ignore the Zax, but it can't. That 10% will not play Neverwinter if the community is 90% smaller. We need people to play with. So a balance has to be made that maintains a free-to-play model to keep our population numbers up. So suck it, Myth. Removing the Zax and installing premium loot only available to people with mommy's credit card is not a healthy option for the game. Number 2. Jack points out that an outage to the auction house actually impacts Zen sales. This is something they have experienced in the game. This tells us that the in-game currency matters, not only to the players but also to Cryptic's bottom line. It is to Cryptic's advantage to have a healthy in-game economy. Making a change isn't really about picking winners and losers in relation to improving the overall health to the game. And yes, there are winners to keeping the system the same. Another point most people forget is Cryptic has stolen all of Chris Whiteside's developers, well, almost, and left him with nothing but Nina from Office Space.
Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking.
And Luke.
You are going to learn to be more professional, Luke!
With that information, we can make some assumptions and possible resolutions. Number 1. Actively monitor the markets. Move items between the markets to balance fluctuations as needed. This is similar to many people's cries that all they need to do is move Prez wards to the Wondrous Bazaar, although I don't think it needs to be a permanent change. You can just shift them around as necessary to ease demand in the Zen or the AD market as necessary. This also doesn't require Cryptic to invest in resources to invent new forms of AD syncs in the game to put into the Wondrous Bazaar. The winners? Those trapped behind the time gating to get items universally needed for progression, like upgrading artifacts and enchants. All those trapped by items that can't be bought at all through AD markets. Think VIP and character slots as an example. The losers are the long-term players who profit by putting max bids in for Zen, buying items on sale, and then reselling them on the AH at sizable markups. Number 2, add a transaction fee on AD to Zen conversions. This serves as an AD sync, but most importantly, it discourages people from converting AD to Zen simply to hoard it. Do people actually convert their AD to Zen to store it? Of course they do. Finally, it takes 0 time to convert Zen back to AD, and since the exchange rate is fixed, Zen remains inflation/deflation free. Everyone should have 5 orders in for Zen at all times. It's the safest investment in the game, if not the most profitable. And then in the case of a sale or some premium loot added to the Zen market, you are ready to strike. Not all Zen being held by accounts is to make profit on sales. Some of it is just an inflation-proof means to protect your earnings. The winners? Less demand to convert AD to Zen for investing because of an added cost for these transactions would certainly mess up the backlog for Zen and in correlation the real value of Zen to AD. And it also sucks a little AD out of the game, which should make AD a little more valuable. And the losers will be the rich players of Neverwinter who have found a nice inflation-proof security to hide their winnings in. I can't imagine anyone really cares if Cryptic is getting a cut of the Zax exchange. All they care about is gaining access to their Zen in a timely fashion. Number 3. Diminishing returns on AD generation. They have done this to some degree. For example, run a random queue more than once and watch how severe the rough AD goes down. I would say that AD generation at the moment is much too high and it puts the market out of whack. Bonus AD from Avernus is an example. In an ideal world, I believe you should need a random trial, a random epic dungeon, a random skirmish, and random dungeon to meet your AD cap for the day. Obviously, the more hard the content, the better the reward should be. And there are alternative ways to get your rad, including weekly campaign quests in Legacies, Heroics, etc. Point being is that Cryptic previously was horrible at this. There were people with tens of millions in backlog when it came to rough AD. And there are still many people with millions of backlog in rough AD. The content design has to be better about diminishing returns on loot, but they have certainly come a long way. I just want people to be incentivized to do more than run random trials and epic dungeons daily. Winners? Everyone. Number 4. This one will probably get me lynched, but there should be a cost to playing. Some form of AD sync. In the RPG world, you typically have costs like repairs to weapons and armor or buying ammunition. There are good ways to pull time currencies out of the game, and Cryptic has tried and failed to implement these a few times. Specifically, the wear and tear on armor with the Blood, that was in Module 10, and with Black Ice in Module 3, and the advent of Overload enchants which most people don't care about. Blood and Black Ice were dumb because you didn't spend time currencies to replenish them. Instead, they were trying to take away your game time with stupid mechanics like digging. Overload enchants aren't a bad solution in theory and maybe need to be expanded more. In either case, we need to see there are better rewards for running a piece of content and not just costing time. If you have VIP, you don't need injury kits. Healing potions are near useless to healers, so there is no cost and probably isn't worth it if you have to pay for repairs. If a dungeon gives a rough AD bonus of 25k and it will cost you 2k refined AD and repairs to run it, you stand to net 25k rough AD profit at the cost of 2k refined AD. You may think it's worth it. That dungeon is suddenly worth 2k rough AD because you already did one dungeon today. You may wonder if running it again is even worth it. At the same time, Cryptic pulls some refined AD out of the game. This also encourages you to diversify your playing time to tasks that generate the most profit. Winners, the community. From refined AD having more value and people diversifying their playing activities. The losers, again the community. Now you're going to need AD to run dungeons. Number 5. This is an unpopular topic. Remove the Zax Cap. It sounds counterintuitive, but anyone who dabbles in economics will tell you that price controls have consequences. So what are the advantages and disadvantages for a price lower than market value? And a 40 million plus backlog for Zen is the definition of a price lower than market value. Do people even realize this means 30 billion AD? Advantages. 1. The advantage is that they will lead to lower prices for consumers. 2. This may be important if the supplier has monopoly power to exploit consumers. For example, a landlord who owns all the property in an area can charge excessive prices. Maximum prices are a method to bring prices closer to a fair and competitive equilibrium. 3. Maximum prices are usually reserved for socially imported goods, such as food and renting. Disadvantages. 1. Lower supply. If people who buy Zen get a lower price for converting their AD to Zen, there is incentive to exchange Zen for AD, thus a backlog on orders. 2. A maximum price will also lead to a shortage, where demand exceeds supply. This leads to the waiting lists. In Neverwinter, this leads free-to-play players being disfranchised from the game. Less players means less friends for you and me to make. 3. Maximum price can lead to the emergence of black markets, as people try to overcome the shortages of the goods and pay well above the market price. This would be the people buying wards at above market prices on the H or trading them. Black markets are prone to scammers as they lack protections by the government, which in this case is Cryptic. Scammed players also become disfranchised. Does this all sound familiar to you guys at all? Guys and girls? I'm not saying that removing the Zax price control is a good idea in a vacuum, but it has to be part of the solution. Because there is no reason why a new player can't pay 1000 AD for one Zen if they think it's worth it. And no, raising the cap won't fix anything. Just as when they raise the cap in Module 16, it will immediately hit the price ceiling again and stay there. How can Cryptic even manage the economies, if they have the resources to do it, if they don't know what the real exchange value of AD to Zen is? Not only is Zen exchanges gated behind a market cap, it's also gated behind an order limit. There could be another 30 billion AD in orders out there that we don't even know about because they are restricted to 5 orders at a time. Removing the Zax cap increases incentive for people to buy Zen with real life money to exchange for AD. It gives players access to the Zen Market's premium content with game currencies, which further negates the pay-to-win argument, which basically stands behind the time gating of the Zax as an excuse for how the game is pay to win. And it gives players and Cryptic a better idea on how the bad economy is fucked up at the moment. Removing the Zax Cap is not the solution, but it should be the goal. I think it's ridiculous that we have to wait 90 days to get 1 month of VIP. That affects the new players and the mid-game players. That means you have to plan 3 months ahead to get VIP. Ridiculous. Anyways, Galactic here. Peace out. Stay safe.